Hello and welcome to the Learn Hypnosis from Scratch, from Basic to Advanced course. And yes, if we study everything that's taught, and most importantly, if you practice everything that I teach you in this course, you will quickly reach levels of skill in hypnosis that you never imagined possible. Yes, I don't know what's your current level of knowledge about hypnosis. Yes, I really don't, but this training was designed for everyone, from the person who is starting from absolute zero and knows nothing about hypnosis to the person who already has a great deal of experience and wants to keep improving. And now, for those who don't know me, I'm Alberto Dell'Isola. I have one of the largest hypnosis channels in the world with more than 400,000 subscribers. But it's all in Portuguese. And I have personally taught hypnosis to more than 10,000 people in person live training programs. And over the last 10 years, I have trained more than 100,000 students online. And despite all those results, I still have a personal goal to bring the knowledge to even more people. And that's why I decided to record these lessons in other languages for people who don't speak Portuguese. And this is me speaking English with all the errors, mistakes. That's not AI. And if you speak Spanish, I have the same course with me speaking in Spanish. So let's see if you understand my accent. Tell in the comments below. And this course will be completely free. Every week, a new lesson, and will be practice oriented. And even though I am a psychology professor, and even though I love talking about the history of mesmerism, Freud, Charcot, and many other important figures, I will not be teaching the history of hypnosis here, and I will not be debating scientific findings about hypnosis, nor discussing research on hypnotherapy, pain control, or the many applications of hypnosis. No, in the future, of course, I will talk about all these subjects, but my plan is in this course teach you how to hypnotize for free. The object is learn how to hypnotize people anytime, anywhere, and fast. And although this course is based on practice, we will still have some theoretical lessons, especially the first ones, to build a stronger foundation. And as I said, this is a complete course. For the first time, I guess, in English, we will have a complete course on YouTube from lesson 1, 2, 3 in the sequence. And you'll be able to download the materials, the manual, the slides for free. Just use the QR code. Just go there, register, and access the files. And I also have an Instagram account. My main account in Portuguese has more than 150,000 subscribers, but followers. But I created a new Instagram in English. So I invite you to follow me in English because I will start putting there only content in English. Go there, go ahead, follow me. You can send your questions through DMs, direct messages on Instagram. And now that I've introduced myself and explained how to access the material, let's talk about hypnosis and what we are going to learn in this course. And I want to make this very clear. What we are going to learn here is called open and direct hypnosis. And many people believe that open hypnosis and direct hypnosis are the same thing, but they're not. So let's start by clarifying these concepts. I created this hypnosis types matrix to be easier to explain this. But let's start clarifying these concepts. Open hypnosis, also known as formal hypnosis, refers to situations in which everyone knows hypnosis is taking place. In English, this type of hypnosis is often called overt hypnosis. When someone performs street hypnosis or stage hypnosis, they are practicing overt hypnosis, open hypnosis, or formal hypnosis. And now, this is a very important point. The same thing happens during a hypnotherapy session. If you go to a hypnotherapist, you know hypnosis is going to happen. In contrast to overt hypnosis, we have what's called covert hypnosis. And covert hypnosis refers to the use of hypnotic phenomena or conversational hypnotic patterns in situations where people do not realize that hypnosis is taking place. For example, a salesperson may use hypnotic patterns to improve sales, or a religious leader may create hypnotic phenomena during a cult and attribute them to spiritual causes. Besides classifying hypnosis as overt and covert, we can also classify it according to the way suggestions are delivered. Suggestions may be direct or indirect. Direct suggestions are clear and objective. In street hypnosis and stage hypnosis demonstrations, we frequently see direct suggestions. The hypnotist says, after the induction, and now you forget your name. Or when you open your eyes, you will see Michael Jackson standing in front of you. These are direct suggestions. We also find direct suggestions in clinical settings. For example, when a hypnotherapist says, and now you will go back to the moment when this happened for the first time, a regression to cause technique. That's also a direct suggestion. On the other hand, we have indirect suggestions. Indirect suggestions occur through what we call indirect associative focus. For example, cigarette commercials used to show high performance athletes. At no point they explicitly said smoke and be like these guys. However, people were still influenced through indirect association. Or imagine watching a movie that deeply moves you, touches you, a movie that makes you reflect on your life, or listening to a lecture that completely changes the way you think. All of these involve indirect suggestions. If a hypnotherapist tells a metaphor during hypnosis, it is still open, formal, overt hypnosis because it takes place within a hypnotherapy session. The context is obvious. However, the suggestion is delivered indirectly through the metaphor. And therefore, we can have open and direct hypnosis, as well as open and indirect hypnosis. For example, imagine going to a hypnotherapy office that is clearly overt, open, formal hypnosis. The client knows that he will be hypnotized. However, the suggestions may be direct or indirect. And we can also have covert hypnosis that's either direct or indirect. Imagine a religious leader performing a routine in a cult, such as the hand clasp phenomena, a hand is stuck, while presenting it as a spiritual experience. In this case, although the suggestions themselves are direct, they occur in a context of covert hypnosis. That would be example of direct covert hypnosis. Because there are direct suggestions, but the context of hypnosis is not clear. So it's covert. And we can also have indirect covert hypnosis. As seen in advertisements, movies, lectures. And in this course, we will focus on overt and direct hypnosis. I love Ericksonian hypnosis. And if people like this course, I will keep creating a new course on Ericksonian hypnosis, which is overt and indirect hypnosis. And in fact, when people say, I want to become a hypnotist or I want to learn hypnosis, this is usually what people are looking for: overt hypnosis with direct suggestions. And as I said, I really love covert hypnosis. I really love Ericksonian hypnosis. And in the future, I plan to create a specific course about this on YouTube. But the point is, this course, we will work with overt and direct hypnosis. And as we are talking a lot about suggestions, I also think it's important for us to define what suggestions are. Throughout this course, we'll talk about suggestion constantly. For example, what's the difference between a suggestion and a direct command? What's the difference between someone who is genuinely hypnotized and someone who is merely pretending, faking? Suggestions create a sense of automaticity, the sense of things that are automatic. Imagine this situation. Everyone is having breakfast, and someone says, don't you think that this milk tastes sour? Suddenly, everyone begins to notice a sour taste. With suggestions, unlike commands, there's a feeling that the response happens by itself, automatically, like a response of the body. The person experiences it as a natural reaction of the body. Some academics describe it as a voluntary loss of control. I love that definition. A voluntary loss of control. In other words, the person temporarily loses the feeling of control because they choose to, while still retaining control at a deeper level. And that is precisely why hypnosis is such a fascinating phenomenon. And now that we have defined suggestions, what exactly is hypnosis? Academically speaking, there are many different definitions. In fact, You could create an entire course just dedicated to debating that question, what hypnosis is. But here we will focus on definitions that are useful for learning overt and direct hypnosis. For example, the APA, the American Psychological Association, defines hypnosis as a state of consciousness involving focused attention, reduced peripheral awareness, and an enhanced capacity to respond to suggestion. This state may involve changes in cognition, emotion, and behavior. Some researchers prefer a different definition. By the way, in recent years, some scholars have described hypnosis as a form of phenomenological control. Phenomenological control is the ability to generate experiences that match expectations. However, as I mentioned earlier, the purpose of this course is to teach you how to master hypnosis as a practical tool. Therefore, these academic distinctions will not be our primary concern right now. And another definition that is simple but very practical that I really like comes from the great hypnotist Dave Elman. According to him, hypnosis is a mental state in which the critical faculty is bypassed and selective thinking is established. In other words, Dave Elman emphasizes that hypnosis is not a fixed condition. It's a mental state that can be altered and achieved rapidly. The critical faculty is the part of the mind responsible for judgment and evaluation. Hot versus cold, sweet versus sour, true versus false. If I showed you this phone and I tell you this is a red bird, you will laugh. You know it is a phone. But if you are deeply hypnotized, you may genuinely perceive it as a bird. In hypnosis, the critical faculty is temporarily reduced, allowing suggestions to be accepted when they are perceived as reasonable or desirable. And Dave Elman also discusses about selective thinking. Selective thinking occurs when a person fully believes in an idea. For example, if people, the subject hypnotized, believe that they will not feel pain, they may experience hypnosis induced anesthesia. If they believe that they have forgotten their name, they may experience it temporarily amnesia. However, if fear or doubt appears, selective thinking disappears and the critical faculty becomes active again. Although I greatly appreciate Dave Elman's definition, and we will study his methods later on in this course, we can initially use an even simpler definition. Hypnosis is the use of communication to alter perception. In overt and direct hypnosis, these alterations are called hypnotic phenomena. And we can divide this hypnotic phenomena into four categories. Ideomotor phenomena involving motor responses such as catalepsy, hand stucks, feet stuck on the floor, arm levitation. Sensory phenomena involving sensory responses such as hypnotic anesthesia, sensations of heat, cold, or tingling. Emotional phenomena involving emotional response such as happiness, calm, fear, or other emotional states. And cognitive phenomena involving cognitive responses such as amnesia, hallucinations, and mental confusion. And these are often considered the most intriguing hypnotic phenomena. The most intriguing are the cognitive phenomena. someone hallucinates. And here is a very curious thing. When someone says hypnosis didn't work for me, they are usually referring only to cognitive suggestions, while ignoring all the other types of phenomena. And in this course, you will learn how to create all of them. You will learn how to alter people's perception in amazing ways. And I would like to end this lesson, our first lesson in English, by answering one final question. Why learn the art of hypnosis? Why are you here? Yes, hypnosis is much more of an art than science. Of course, we have many scientific findings about hypnosis applications, but the creation of hypnosis is very connected to art, to performing, creating expectancy. And the first question is, why learn the art of hypnosis? This question can be answered on many, many different levels. But I will tell you this, everyone should learn hypnosis. First, because hypnosis is one of the most fascinating and impressive phenomena you will ever find. Even if you have no intention of working with hypnosis, even if you never wanted to become a stage hypnotist or a hypnotherapist, it is still be one of the most extraordinary forms of knowledge you can acquire. Learning hypnosis will completely change the way you see the world around you. And that alone would be reason enough to study everything we are going to teach here. But there are also practical benefits. When you learn hypnosis, your communication skills improve dramatically. If your profession involves interacting with people, this knowledge can become invaluable. Furthermore, you may discover a new passion. Hypnosis may become a new profession for you, whether in entertainment or in a clinical practice. I can tell you one thing for certain. I can tell you one thing for certain. The moment you enter the world of hypnosis, your life will never, ever be the same again. And as I mentioned earlier, this course will be highly practical. However, during the first lessons, I will provide an overview of some foundational concepts that are essential for mastering hypnosis for once and for all. So, what do you think about this new course? Did you understand my English? I'm quite sure that I speak Portuguese much better than English, but I hope you understood and keep following the channel every week, at least one class. And see you next class.